Man, I mean, that's some good stuff, and like it feels really topical at the moment. You know, you just don't get that kind of attitude anymore so much.
I love it. Excellent choice here. So, speaking of cryptocurrencies, theme songs, if Ring had a theme song, what would that be?
I think it would be the sound of dwarves in massive caverns. The huge hammers, the forging stuff, and just the sound of kind of industrial fantasy combined with dwarven work songs. So all the kind of long forgotten gold. All of the yeah. I could hear it because you'd want to get into the rhythm, swinging your hammer deep in the dwarven mines. So you would have these bassy baritone work songs, I expect, and some rudimentary drums as well. So yeah, I guess ringcore is possibly something we just invented. I don't know.
I think we need to. And my humble suggestion would be to take Wagner and put him in an industrial mode, right? And you could just channel Wagner. And that's what I want Ring to be.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely doable. We could probably do that algorithmically and just give you a infinite dynamic Wagner. That would be lovely. Seems to have lost audio, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I left. I hit escape. Wagner it frits me out, man. This is pretty exciting stuff. Ring.
No worries.
So back to Ring. Proof of play, and I know we have just limited time here, but how does proof of play that you've developed differ from a lot of cryptocurrency games out there? How would you explain?
Okay, well, I think the first thing that I have to say is that a lot of cryptocurrency games out there are just that, and they're games, and that's fine. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and in a lot of cases, the vast majority of cases, they're provably fair, and that includes stuff like crypto casinos, anything where where you can win crypto, whether or not you're necessarily paying to play. Kind of all of that stuff I'm broadly including in this. And that's awesome for what it is. But at the same time, that's not producing proof of anything. It might be provably fair in and of itself. It might be profitable as well, but it's not actually securing a blockchain. So whatever chains these games run on, behind the scenes, there's another mechanism that's actually generating blocks, actually signing blocks. Now, with our proof of play, the player is solving a problem that's been set in a previous block, and that's kind of the validation for the game opportunity to exist in the first place. When they solve that block, when they solve that puzzle, they're actually minting a block. That block has other people's transactions in it. So it's by playing the game that the blockchain actually grows. Other people's transactions are actually processed, and the whole thing remains secured. So it's absolutely removing the impetus from kind of mining hardware, or indeed from dwarves if you're hive mining, and putting it entirely on the player to perform an actual task. So when you play a proof of play game, you're solving a cryptographic puzzle essentially. It's just being framed to you in a way that's hopefully fun. And I have to say also, this isn't the absolute first implementation of this idea. It wasn't, in fact, us. You would have to look, I think, at MotoCoin, which launched about 2013 and kind of fizzled out. They based their code base on I think we were talking last time a bit about the old Peercoin proof of stake code base, and that had formed the basis for the MotoCoin game. They had it was quite a cool game. They had like a 2D physics-driven motorcycle simulator where you have a randomly generated landscape, and you only have kind of 4 opportunities to give an input, and you have to kind of steer your bike towards a destination. But ours is sort of more cryptographically valid, if you like, and also unfortunately the wallet was very bug-ridden and kind of died on its arse because of that more than anything. But we'll be discussing the similarities and differences between Ring and MotoCoin in the upcoming Ring white paper, which I'm excited to say you should be able to read really soon. But within there, we use a motor. We first of all credit Motorcoin as kind of the initial developer of the idea of proof of play, but also use it as a case study of explaining kind of how our ideas are a bit better.
Perfect. And it sounds like that'll all be addressed in the white paper. One question I have, and it may be really stupid, but I've got a whole load of stupid questions. If I am wanting a block to be generated, if I'm the transaction on the other side of this, and it's a proof of play, block that has to be generated through the proof of play, am I going to be delayed by the length of time it takes the player to solve the puzzle?
Oh, no, absolutely. Because in fact, if they don't solve it, then the chances are a proof of work block will, come along quite happily and include your transaction anyway. So to you as either the originator or recipient of a transaction, you're in no way affected by what type of mining has been used to secure the block that your transaction appears in. It's all completely equivalent.
Excellent. That's excellent. Well, with our timing, let's go to our last DID, and that's I don't even know how to pronounce it, so I'll let you introduce it. But Bipolar Star.
Bipolar Star from Olivier Giacomotto, I think, but I'm not. And I also have to, on a related note, because I don't know this guy's nationality, so I'm not sure of the pronunciation. And I must just apologize to DC Evil for my incorrect presumption that he was German when, I have spoken to him before and I should know better. So for German substitute European accent that I can't quite discern once we're doing a triple chain of different communication mediums in order to bring each other our voice.
All good, you forgive it.
Olivier Giacomotto, Bipolar Star. This is absolutely not an unfamiliar tune to anybody who listens to Saturday Night Hive, and it's just always stuck with me ever since I discovered it. It was one of the first tunes that when Loxley and I started mixing together, we used to absolutely rinse this and have ever since. And it's just one of those that contains everything that I love about a genre in one kind of capsule track. And in terms of the deep end of tech house, this just has it all. It's got everything that I love about that genre. So enjoy Bipolar Star, and no doubt you'll hear Loxley or me remix it tomorrow night if we do a Saturday Night Hive, which is to be confirmed. But I really enjoyed doing Sonita Night Hive last Saturday. That was freaking awesome.
Excellent stuff. So, a few more questions.
Massive.
Well, I call it a
love
day.
that.
Did I lose you, or are you still?
No, I was just waiting for you. Go ahead.
Excellent. So in looking at the white paper on Ring, we've got the white paper, at the roadmap on Ring, we have white paper coming up. And then I noticed what we have with Rialto and the proof of play games is an evolution where we go from, I guess, parochial, to cross chain to third party. And if you had a vision for a proof of play in Rialto in full bloom, what is that?
Well, proof of play and Rialto are really two separate things. But the vision of Rialto in full bloom is a vision of absolutely empowering people to be able to use some bloody trustworthy communications mechanisms. That's what it's really all about. Because, I don't know if you've seen with Zoom's recent surge in popularity. Okay, just take this as an example. And honestly, I don't know if they even kind of theoretically promise any sort of encryption or whether or not they promise end-to-end encryption or anything like that. But look at their recent surge in popularity. And of course, that's been accompanied by a spate of reports of vulnerabilities and inappropriate use of this tool at high levels of government and by other kinds of organizations whose communications really shouldn't be hackable, and people are able to do something as ridiculous as changing a number and a URL to be able to join somebody else's meeting, right? I mean, come on.
I know.
Like, that's not acceptable, though, is it? And we're talking about huge companies. I mean, even the venerable WhatsApp are not immune to kind of this sort of stuff. And the truth is, like, no organization is immune to this sort of complete undermining of their technology, or, you know, even worse, kind of governmental or quasi-governmental involvement in the terms of, you know, a length of rubber pipe round the back of your office car park as you're leaving work for the day. So, I mean, this creates a huge problem, and the only answer is math. Okay, the answer isn't products. The answer is just math. And none of these companies are letting you go and look at their source code and look at the maths that they're using. So all the claims of end-to-end encryption, blah blah blah, are spurious at best, and you just have somebody's word to rely on for that. Now, it's not really good enough. So you look around and think, okay, is there any form of encryption that's actually trustworthy? And I mean, yeah, there is, because otherwise, you know, I wouldn't be sat here being interviewed. Like, we have a really, really strong encryption that you and me and everybody worldwide trusts every day to protect their coins. So what if we can use that exact same encryption, not just the same techniques, but even the same key pairs that you use to receive and send currency? If we can use those to set up secure session keys, then we, you know, have a really, really provably end-to-end encryption system that even if the black helicopters descend and men in suits jump out with aforementioned lengths of rubber pipe and beat me to a bloody pulp, they're still not going to be able to crack your messages. And because of the nature of the beast, you know, because we're basing all this on top of cryptocurrency, it means, hey, we kind of, like, almost for free get an integrated low friction, zero friction payment mechanism, so that not just are you able to have secure end-to-end chat with somebody, but you're able to send them funds as well. That's the nutshell of it. But the full blossoming of this flower is you being able to do that not just with key pairs from Ring, and so essentially not just using Ring addresses, not even just using Ring or Litecoin Cash addresses, which, you know, that would be the first level of interoperability. People on LCC, people using LCC key pairs and people using Ring key pairs being able to Rialto together. That's the first kind of first blossom. But the full bloom is when anybody on any crypto can use any key pair to do Rialto with anybody else using any key pair for any other crypto. Not even necessarily with any kind of explicit authorization or approval or involvement of the other currencies, right? So I'm talking about, we're going to be able to do Rialto on the Bitcoin network without any change in consensus on the Bitcoin side, without any need for Gavin or any of the other Bitcoin team to kind of give us any tacit or otherwise approval. So that's really exciting, and that's the vision for that, and that's what it looks like in full bloom.
Yeah, I'm trying to even think of a metaphor to try to figure out how that looks in full bloom, but maybe that's what we wait for, to see it in full bloom. I think I can understand it on Ring, because it's, as you say, a payment system with a frictionless communication that's perfectly secure.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
I got a question. What do you think? Will it be banned from the startup in China and then later from the NSA in the United States?
I mean, you can't, this is the thing, you can't really ban maths, you know. I can't speak to specific policies regarding crypto, but it would be, on a technical level, it would be tricky to kind of shut the P2P network down by filtering it, whilst still having some kind of reassurance that you're actually filtering the right thing. On a governmental level, will they say you're not allowed to use this because it represents something that they can group in with a category of otherwise naughty things? You know, whether that's end-to-end encrypted chat or privacy coins or any other kind of arbitrary bracket of technology decide to bucket things into. I mean, that's another matter. But will it be banned or not? I can't answer. Can it be shut down or not is a much more interesting question. And I mean, as I say, the maths will continue to work just fine. You know, if things get really, really dark, it might for a while be up to users to negotiate network connection. Something that I hate to see, and that you see with a lot of kind of or shall I say lower end altcoins is these ad node lists dotting about. And then a lot of times that's because the coin has lost its ability to do any kind of centralized coordination of nodes, right? So when a wallet comes online, connects to the network, it needs an initial way to find out about other nodes. Some these lower end coins, as I say, add nodes lists of other nodes that are mostly up and mostly working, get passed around on forums and stuff. We have a DNS seed. So there's a couple of DNS addresses that get pinged by your wallet when you come online, and that dynamically tells you, hey, here's a bunch of other wallets that you can connect to in order to become part of the P2P network. Now, that DNS seed right there is probably the most centralized part of our ecosystem and our P2P network and any other coins as well. But the very fact that you can still circulate lists of nodes that others can connect to gives you a completely decentralized way to keep the P2P network going. Even if it becomes impossible to do DNS seeding, you cannot ban the math. So if people are able to find a way to connect their wallets together, those wallets are going to reach a consensus. So for that reason, I'm optimistic that if we can just get the technology out there with the implementation that I dream of and put it in people's hands, then it'll be unkillable, because people will continue to hack away on it. People will continue to find ways to do peer discovery, which is the hardest part about it. But yeah, at the same time, I'm kind of prepared for that eventuality. I think you have to consider that what we're doing is potentially very disruptive, will potentially attract all of the team as individuals, certain unwanted attention. But I mean, I don't know. I might just be sounding completely paranoid. I might be completely paranoid. I just don't know what to expect, to be honest.
Ted, you know, there's an orange clown outside in the world, and he doesn't like crypto, and he doesn't like secure transmissions, and he will put out the flag of that they're supporting terrorists. That was what I'm afraid of.
But, I mean, that particular individual's maths knowledge is not something I would be hugely concerned about. So, you know, if it comes down to I'm really fairly apolitical. But if it comes down to a maths contest, then I don't think we'll have too much of a problem with him.
I don't think you will either. I don't know who this orange clown is, but my country has an orange clown, and he's not sharp at math. So what do you think of proof of play? What does that look like in full bloom when it's third party?
Proof of play, I think it's okay. So you have to kind of consider scaling within our chain, but also like wider scalability as well. So we discussed a little bit last time about how with Hive we're always really happy to be involved with any downstream projects. Like if another coin comes along and wants to implement Hive, then we're absolutely going to help them sanity check their code base, blah blah blah, because further implementations out in the wild actually validate our technology and validate us as the progenitors of that technology. Okay, and it's a very similar position with proof of play. If somebody wanted to take up proof of play code and integrate it into a new coin or an existing coin or anything like that, you know, that would be great. So that's kind of one form of scaling, but it's sort of scaling outside of the family, if you like. The more interesting form of scaling to me is the type of scaling we can do within Ring. And there's a whole load of really exciting stuff. So we built it from the start with the idea that there's not going to be just one game. It's more a framework for building proof of play games, which allows you to take this cryptographic challenge and frame it in a gameplay format, right through to, you know, you could connect it to Fortnite and have the winner of every Royale Fortnite game gets to mint a block, and that block that they're minting, again, this is actual securing of the blockchain, solving an actual cryptographic problem, giving an actual right to mint a block, which includes actual transactions.
That is so exciting.
So it's possible. Yeah, and you know, in the case of So let's just briefly look at kind of that particular example, like Fortnite. Say Epic Games, somebody else came along and wanted to integrate with us. That obviously introduces a certain amount of centralization because you're essentially giving that company the right to nominate winning people who have the capacity to mint a block. Okay, because you said, hey, we trust your rules enough and your bot proofing, blah, 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 enough that the results of your games are at least valid enough to declare somebody has the right to mint a block. So anything like that would absolutely have to be a community decision. That kind of sea change couldn't even, it's not something we could take as a core team. That would have to involve the whole community. But there's many other types of integration that we can do that are still within Ring, besides integrating with external pre-existing games. Like the entire Qt wallet is set up so that we can implement additional games, and even third-party developers can implement additional games right within the wallet. So whereas at the moment you click on a game opportunity and then you play the game, the initial next level of this is you click on a game opportunity and then select the game that you want to play. Hopefully more than one available for you to try. So this one can kind of branch off in a bunch of different directions, and really, because it's absolutely brand new tech, we have to sort of throw a few things at the wall and see what sticks, and try a bunch of stuff out on testnet and see what people like as well.
That is exciting. I'm looking forward to that journey. One just follow-up question, then last questions is: as proof of play and Rialto go out into the world and become grow into their full bloom, do they remain inextricably Ring based, or is this a technology that takes off and goes out there and isn't connected to Ring anymore?
Well, certainly, as I say, with Rialto, we envisage it becoming a protocol, becoming something that's part of the wider community for sure. It originated here, but it's something the wider world needs and something that we should give them, right?
Absolutely.
So kind of, I see that as becoming something. My dream is for every wallet to have a Rialto integration, or at least. And this is the nice thing about it, is that you don't necessarily, because it doesn't affect consensus, you don't even need it to be in the official wallet. So, for example, we may produce our version of the Bitcoin Core wallet, where it's still the exact same Bitcoin Core wallet, but it's got Rialto in it. And at least we'd like everybody to have the capacity to do something similar for every coin out there, whether it's in an official sense or not. So that's how I would really see the wider picture on Rialto. And with proof of play, as I've said, we'd be more than happy for other coins to come along and talk to us about our implementation, and to build on what we've done. Of course, what we hope is that people will come along and build with us and build on our platform. And if they want to do proof of play games, I'd love them to come along and work with us and build them into our wallet. And we can absolutely incentivize that kind of work as well. But that being said, if somebody really wants to start a new blockchain based on their own games, then we're more than happy to take a look at it and make sure it kind of fits in with what we think works and doesn't.
I love it. This is so exciting. Last question then for you is, what about Ring and LCC, and maybe even cryptocurrency, how they fit in? What do most people seem to not understand about it that you wish they would, if there is something?
Boy, that's a deep one. Okay. Well, in terms of Ring and LCC specifically, I would like to think that we do a good enough job communicating that there's no wild misconception. That being said, there's okay, yeah, all right. I've got an answer for this, and also an answer for the other question that you asked, like a wider sense about cryptocurrencies. But with Ring and LCC, one thing I really, really want to point out is, when you're creating bees or dwarves, and there's that tick box for the community fund contribution. And this is about the only community misconception that I can think of, but I've had it reported in recent weeks that there's been some debate about, what does it affect if you tick that or not? And the answer is absolutely nothing. So if say you're creating 1,000 bees, if you tick that box, you're still going to get the same number of bees. If you don't tick it, you're still going to get the same number of bees. The bees that you get are going to cost the same amount, whether you tick it or not. The mining effectiveness of the bees, and in fact, even the kind of serial number that the bees get, if you like, which dictates their overall luck, is exactly the same. So there's just no difference whatsoever. You've got nothing to lose by doing that. So the way this works is that the funds that you spend in order to create bees or dwarves normally get burned. Your right to own those bees or dwarves is kind of granted to you by this bee creation transaction, which is proving that you've literally thrown some money on a bonfire and destroyed it in order to create them. So the only thing the community fund does is diverts a certain small percentage of the funds that would otherwise be destroyed and kind of sticks them in a tip jar, which goes back to us so that we can fund development. So yeah, that's the only thing. And I think like with Ring and LCC, there's so many brand new things on these chains that I could see a situation where there's so many misconceptions and confusion. But I think that while our day-to-day communication could maybe be a little better, I think our communication about our technology and how our stuff works is good enough that there aren't really any major misunderstandings out there in the wild. But to just very briefly address your wider question about what do I think that people maybe don't understand about cryptocurrency in general, and that's that we've been going a decade now, okay? This whole big experiment has been going a decade, and when something's been going that long, it's very, very easy to feel that it's kind of always been there, and probably always will be in one form or another. But, really, we're all just still part of the great experiment. And I think 5 years from now, it could have all crashed and burned. We could still be part of the great experiment, but there's not going to be any kind of resolution within those 5 years as to what exactly are the wider societal philosophical implications of cryptocurrency. It's not like a solved thing. It's not a completely decided, it's basically monopoly money, but we can trade it on an exchange, so just treat it as an asset. We're not in any position to know what the end state looks like yet, and that's what I think a lot of people forget. There's still plenty of room for absolutely massive, deep changes to what we understand as crypto, what we think of as crypto, how we use crypto, and all of this stuff. So, yeah. Phew. I don't know how intelligible I've been through this at all. I hope that you've been able to, at least to make out what I'm saying via my FaceTime to Scarlett and then an audio bridge through to goodness knows where, mate. But back to you, Matt, if you can still understand what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, and you're crystal clear. And yet, now that I know a little bit more about you, your background in the demo scene and coming up through, you live in the world of esoterica, and you're bringing it to a lot of us
yeah,
here.
for sure. Like if it smacks of arcane knowledge, like I'm there. I mean, my newest coronavirus hobby has been learning Middle Egyptian so that I can translate hieroglyphs in the National Museum of Scotland. So yeah, if it's anything that seems obscure or esoteric, I'm all over it.
Oh, and see that might be what I treasure most at this point about this whole thing is, so that's where we have cryptocurrency. I appreciate your thoughts there. I'm still trying to understand really what it is. And so thank you for that little piece. I've heard it described as the internet of money, and yet I still can't quite wrap my head about what that means. But I like what you're creating here, what I guess we as a community are creating here, which is something interesting and new, and we're not quite sure where it's going.
Well, dude, that your stance there of kind of trying to understand. So what is it? Okay, and I can give you some technical explanation. Okay, but what is it? And I think that's the basis for a potentially entertaining podcast, whereby I kind of explain to you from first principles what the fuck it is, and actually And you can build it up as a thought experiment. How would you go about inventing this if you didn't know the underlying technologies, of which there are two: public key cryptography and hash functions. Okay, that's it. If you understand those, it's reasonably easy to explain in a few minutes how cryptocurrencies work. But I do think it would be worthwhile to have kind of some sort of, whether a podcast or maybe some future Friday sessions where we actually go through these things and explain the foundation. Because I really like this format and chatting to you, man. And I think if that's an entertaining idea to anybody, we should do that and go kind of from zero layman level knowledge to actually understanding on a slightly deeper level.
I would thoroughly love that. I mean, if we just called it "What the fuck is crypto?" I would be down for that.
Nice. I would be totally up for that.
We'll put together. We'll get our schedules going. Lit is on board as well, so I would love to do that.
I see that. Awesome.
Your
we can add
schedule
it
is,
to
obviously
to interrupt, Matt. We can add that to the Trello board as a expansion of the current card that we have.
Excellent. I love
please do. Please Trello me.
I look forward to this every Friday. So again, thank you so much for your time, Tanner. I'm glad they let you out of the cave and the mine where you're toiling.
I can still hear those songs in my head. The dwarven baritone as the hammers clank together. Oh, makes me wistful, mate. A tear in my eye over here, man.
I'm positively dying. The dwarven hammers ringing in the distance. Well, I'm Welsh, and I believe they have.
I'm going to add an additional tune to leave you with. Let me just find a good YouTube version. 1 sec. Oh yeah, I think I've got our outro for this show. Can I hit it? How do I do it? Hyphen play, is it?
Love it. Thank you.
I think I will have to play.
All right, play that. Thank you all.
Thank you too, even if it was hard to get it done. See you guys.
Oh, we excel when stuff's hard. You're welcome, man. Take care.
You really do. You very clearly excel when the pressure's on and the odds are.
Oh yeah, definitely.